or that sense, and the beginning, which is very this kind of listing descriptive.
Yeah, I don't think we were too preoccupied with genre. I think what interested us was ways of narrating the city. What did we heard speaking of the sun was not his son. A so-called piece of fiction which is really ethnographic analysis of a certain kind. A memoir which actually is a social history. That apocalyptic end of Midnight's Children is really a prose poem. So, you know, even at the level of genre, what we've seen here is a melding of genres. So I don't think we should be too preoccupied with what you call a certain kind of text. But I think, and you should go to this as well, in terms of what is it that seizes our attention and imagination about the city. Kaiwan, this is your studio.
Yeah. No, the reason to pick up is I just ended reading when there's this kind of following of this one person that happens, and clearly the sense of the writing as a mode of imagination, description, ethnography, and that kind of coming together. It also matches with, there was this question some time ago, like I think there were two questions bordering to even Kiran, and like, did you follow a Dhobi Ghat, a real Dhobi Ghat, so to speak, or how do we perceive the person who's walking on the road and fits in together? So in a sense, I think a lot of these structures of writing also come out from again the preoccupations and the need to kind of explain or talk about the anxiety as well as the description of what you want to call the street or the city, in a sense. So I think it's also the mode of writing, whether it's any of these three, which has been preoccupied in a sense with explaining a certain kind of an experience or a certain kind of a condition which one would refer to as metropolitan in a more academic frame, sort of.
Yeah, I also look at it from another point of view. You see, the way that our cities, or even our city, is changing or is made to change. There is always in the newspapers, in the media, and all, there's always a desire to label something, you know, and thereby kind of damn something by putting a label on it. You require texts like these which kind of undercut that necessity to create finalities in the city when there aren't any. And I think these texts will probably yield more in the long run than academic pieces or even dogmatic pieces on how the city is and where it's going.
Also, in a sense, they would, I imagine, become what we were discussing earlier, that you can't go around preserving every building and things like that. And what happens is that you're at least trying to collect, in the sense of a film or in the sense of a book or writing, certain set of images, certain set of ideas, certain set of characters, and you feel like you've collected, at least temporarily, a certain notion of the city or the neighborhood. And in a sense, these are the exercises, I think, that in some way these writings are also moving towards, that they're creating these levels of narration of an idea or an experience, which then kind of continues.
These are all narration, but would we be right in assuming this is not reportage? I don't think even Pamuk would fall into that. Okay, so in one sense there is the opportunity of looking at the authors and the way they wrote about the city, not so much about how the city is, but possibilities for what the city could be. Okay. There is a built-in looking forward idea, I think, in some of these. That doesn't mean it is all optimistic or something like that, but this is what I have.
Yeah, and then just to respond to what you're saying, reportage is also a far more complex practice than newspapers might lead you to believe it is. True. So I think we also need to be attentive to the fact that reportage is a complex anthropological practice, and at its best, it can lead you into the density and texture of things. So I would mean... Second?
Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
This would be a reportage to begin with, in a sense.
Yeah.
But then
but it's also, I mean, forms camouflage themselves under other forms. So I mean, what is the POV in that story? He starts by presenting himself as someone who is following someone who merges into the crowd. And then before you know it, it's actually changed into this, gradually it becomes a very, very panoramic kind of view of society. So that's what I mean. It is a complex way of narration.
And it's also very inclusivist. It takes everything in its stride as it comes. It doesn't necessarily need to categorize, or even put things in a particular order.
But within their structures, they do that ordering also. Within the individual text, or that moment of narration involves a certain sense of ordering. So whether it's the sewage pipe or whether it's the list.
Yeah, that's right. Also, it's astonishing just how prophetic the Rushdie apocalypse is. It's amazing. Both in Midnight's Children and Shame, somehow the way he ends each book is really prophetic of each country, the India, Pakistan. So I guess it's also about, I think in both the things, and also actually in the Pamuk. To reflect on a great city is also to reflect on the nation that it in some way represents, if you will, or has something to do with as a kind of controlling device. Because it's, from the Pamuk, from that anthology of extracts from columns, you might get the impression that it's a lot of disgruntled citizens who are expressing their civic woes. But in each case, it's contextualized against some far more epic events, like the presence of martial law. There were things from 1914 where it's clear that the Ottoman Empire is shortly going to be at an end. Things from 1918 where clearly the empire is finished and you can see what's likely to come. Things from the early Kabbalist period. So there's also a way of treating everything we read as evidentiary material.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in a sense also there is this sense of location. Like here there is clearly that he begins with the cafe, looking out at the street. I mean, this could be actually just catching kind of chatter in a cafe and making a list of it, or the taxi in that sense, and looking outside closed. So the sense of location yet moving, but still you could be located but the other is moving, and you negotiate that kind of a relationship also.
For lack of another word, there's a tremendous sense of collective momentum that you sense in different calibrations in all three texts. So I think it's in some sense the actual subject matter of social history. I don't know how you feel about it, Kaiwan, because in the kind of research and writing you do, sort of tapping into this momentum.
There is the
we also saw it in film.
Yeah, the sense of collecting, that's what you're...
No, collective momentum, something that in the act of it happening, or in the act of your participating in it, it may not be very clear. It's a complex kind of dense experience.
Right.
But then you resort to this kind of testimony to draw out its main features.
Yes, but I'm figuring out how do I explain or describe that. Because at one point it also comes out of this, the search. But what you soon start realizing that your search for the narrative structure, looking for the form, becomes a certain kind of what do you say? A certain series of drawers, of references, of ideas. And then you're trying to kind of put them together. They become uncomfortable. Sometimes they go very well. Sometimes. So in a sense, there is this thing that you're looking and thinking. You're looking and thinking. Not in a sense of sometimes direct references, but you're kind of using this collective as a space where you are kind of thinking out of, and then you're at the same time producing or being part of other kind of collective processes also.
So part of the strategies of making sense.
Making sense.
You know, and
making sense.
I think in the fact that you mentioned that there is a momentum. What you do need is to strategize to make sense of that momentum. Not be necessarily carried away by it, and not hold back, as in kind of fuddy-duddy way that things are so bad and they're going ahead and what they're writing. You know, but to go with it, one needs ways of doing. Your exhibition is one of the ways of doing, because you are showing a lot of the old in the process of constant change.
Absolutely.
Okay, and there is a momentum of the old as well, which is very quickly ceasing to be recognized.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And things like this bring that. Does anybody have?
I was hoping one of you would read Kawaki and Alexandria, or Lawrence Durrow, or about Jerusalem, or Salman Rushdie's Karachi. Yeah, or Salman Rushdie's Karachi, which he has done so well in Shame.
Why did you choose this passage?
This is a passage which always stayed with me right from the time when I read it first time when it came out, 1986 or something like that. Okay, and of course the immediate relationship which this book has with Bombay is the fact that very soon, no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about a different time, but this passage did stay with me all the time. And one of the reasons I want this today, I have not attended a reading of Salman Rushdie's work in Bombay. I don't know if anybody has, and I think it's about time that we did it.
We had come to Bombay years ago. In fact, there was a reception for him at the president hosted by Niaz Merchant. But that was before the fatwa.
Sure. So the point is that this, I think, works by him do need reading, and that was one of the reasons as well, other than the context in which it is being read. So.
It's one of my favorite cities. But apart from that, I think it also, being in Istanbul, you see it instantly. It extremely compellingly dramatizes what it means to be in a like Berlin in a different way. You become a participant in very divided histories of self-perception. I mean, it works in one way in Berlin in different kind of fluidity, but in Istanbul, sometimes it's weird, where you have a certain kind of Istanbul person pointing across the street and saying, that's the Asian part. Or then you go to the Asian part and then you see the asymmetries and the palimpsestral kind of history. So it's a city where you can reflect on your own city here at a slight remove. But that is what those extracts demonstrated. At one level, the demonstration is that civic problems are pretty much the same everywhere. But the way in which civic debate is conducted gives you a very specific texture. So for me, it's a way of being elsewhere and looking at here.
Also the fact that you are reading quotations from different times.
That's right. Yeah.
And that the civic problems were there even in the 20s. They are not very different from the ones today.
But also, how do you form a kind of notion of equity between the economic contributions of immigrants and your sense that they are somehow ruining your city, right? So, I mean, you will find the same rhetoric in New York or at various points. Here, of course, famously, and in a most agitated manner. But this is, again, as I say, it's a way of refracting your situation.
But the three of them also had a certain present tense, if I'm right. Even if the lists are belonging to a different time,
right.
there was a nowness to, very immediateness to. Also in the tone of it, as all of us read, I think there's a very immediateness to the of this. It's there. Yeah.
You can draw a line from Poe to Baudelaire to Auger. It's all more or less. I mean, if you take.
So, thanks, Mustansir. And we are having Shilpa Gupta and Nancy Arajania in conversation. Again, an artist, a theorist, both people whose work I find very engaging and interesting. And so that's the event next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. So please do come. Thank you so very much. And actually, thanks Shalini and Urvi and Kashmira and all the others. Thank you very much.